Another financial crisis. The problems from the financial crisis of 2008 were not really fixed. Indeed, it could easily be argued that a whole host of other problems were created. It looks likely that another financial crisis is going to occur, and this may be sooner rather than later. Truth be told, the economy has been in the hospital ever since 2008, and another heart attack is in the offing. What is more, the crisis will be more likely be of vastly greater proportions than the previous one, and this time it could kill the financial system outright. I should point out there is a difference between the financial system and the underlying economy, but perhaps this is a topic for another video. The recovery since the crash of 2008 has been something of a fabrication, one might even say an outright lie, made up by the powers that be, the governments, the central banks, the ECB, the IMF, the Fed, the mainstream media, etc., in order to control the narrative. Perception management is the name of the game. So, quantitative easing. QE is one of the two key supports given to the financial system while it's been in ICU. Basically, the financial system is being given blood transfusions to keep it alive. We must also bear in mind that QE is just money printing, and we know the perils of that. I refer you to my previous video on inflation. GDP. At best, growth could be described as weak. How can growth in GDP of around 2% be regarded as anything but weak? GDP is put forward as an indicator of economic activity in a society. Just as with a thermometer used on a sick individual, there is a narrow range where the person is deemed well. When it goes outside of that range, there is cause for concern. It's been at the low end of the scale for an awfully long time. The stock market. Yes, the stock markets are high, but stock markets are just a single part of the financial system. They are not the be-all and end-all of an economy, despite what the mainstream media would have us believe. So don't be fooled by their propaganda. It's worth pointing out that low interest rates have provided cheap money, which has caused asset prices to rise. Bubbles have been blown up all over the place. Another point to make is that in recent times, CEOs of companies have instigated policies of buying back shares in their own companies, which has in turn inflated the price of their company stocks. This policy artificially boosts stock prices. In the US, there's the Plunge Protection Team, which is an agency of the Treasury. They step in where there is a dramatic downturn in the stock market. This certainly doesn't seem to be something one might associate with free market capitalism, does it? One could even argue that capitalism has given way to state-run, centrally managed markets. And you could call that communism. As Gregory Mannarino occasionally points out, the Fed has a trading desk on the New York Stock Exchange, so they therefore must be trading. And it would seem that they are buying assets. The Fed buys financial assets to stimulate the economy, and it probably buys them for other reasons also. The pandemic. The economies of most countries have taken massive hits due to the pandemic restrictions. Businesses have been forced to close, and some have even failed. Much else besides has occurred. I've presented only a few snapshots here. I try to keep these videos brief. I've written at greater length on this topic in an article. If anyone's interested, I can give them a copy. So when is the crash going to happen? Who can say for sure? This month, next year, I don't know. That said, it might already be underway. The Evergrande debacle might well turn out to be the trigger this time around. It has officially recently defaulted. Moreover, China has just announced that foreign investors are not going to get paid back. This will definitely have worldwide repercussions. The bond markets are going to suffer. Another analogy to use is to describe the situation we find ourselves in, like an earthquake which causes a tsunami. In the Boxing Day tsunami of 2004, the wave took time to travel from the epicenter in Indonesia to the Thai coast. There's going to be a time lag in this instance also. The financial tsunami hasn't hit the West yet, but it might do soon. It's very possible that all this has been planned, done by design, as was the case with the Wall Street crash in 1929. This might seem a strange thing to say, but perhaps consider that a crisis for some is an opportunity for others. Some people, a very select group of people, will benefit from a crash. Also, having a controlled demolition, the powers that shouldn't be can stay in charge. In the financial crisis of 2007-2008, there were bailouts for the banks. Governments forced them to take money, and you paid for this measure via taxation. In this next crisis, there might well be bail-ins. This means, in short, they will raid people's bank accounts to help prop up the banks. But make no mistake, it's basically theft. They will steal your money. One last point I wish to make. When you put money in a bank account, the money is no longer yours. You might believe that the money is yours, after all, it's your bank account, but it's not yours. In legal terms, you are regarded as an unsecured creditor. Your bank account is just an illusion, some form of allowance, not a real entitlement. Viewed from this perspective, by putting money into a bank, you are not saving money, you are making a loan to the bank. You are giving the bank credit. Few people are aware of this. Don't believe me? Do your own research, or try taking large sums of money off your money out and see how the bank reacts. Anyway, the aim of this video is to serve as a warning. I would like to say that I don't mean to make you fearful. At least, I'm not trying to scare you for any ulterior motives like the MSM try to do. That said, you perhaps should be alarmed. This should be of genuine concern to you and to us all. Wise up and rise up.